Sitting loud at the mic, discussing politics, their passion ignites. Conservative values, they stand their ground. In a world of chaos, their truth can be found. Unsanctioned America, they won't back down. Voices of reason in a liberal town. Oh, John and Tom bringing the heat. In a podcast storm, they won't face defeat. Speaking their minds, it's a freedom fight. Unsanctioned America, they'll light up the night. They break it down, what's fair and what's right, calling out the nonsense, shining a light. With every debate, they sharpen their blade, fighting for freedom, the lights only lay. In a nation divided, they'll rise above with passion and truth and a whole lot of love. Oh, John and Tom bringing the heat. In a podcast storm, they won't face defeat. Speaking their minds, it's a freedom fight. Unsanctioned America, they'll light up the night. So tune in and listen, join the crusade for a brighter tomorrow. The truth will not fade.
Only in America is it possible to say, you know what, I don't like the way the country is going, and to do something about it. Take that risk, take that leap of faith, stay involved, trust God, and act obediently. Romans 12:2 verse, that God will use all things for good for those who love him. It's bigger than you. I want you to remember that. It is bigger than you. It's bigger than me. You are here to make somebody else's life better, the pursuit of liberty and freedom. You know what gives me strength? The hundreds of thousands of you that say, Charlie, keep going.
1 Corinthians 5 and 15. So that's all pretty amazing evidence, not just intra-biblical evidence, but extra-biblical evidence that Jesus Christ was a real person. He lived a perfect life. He was crucified, died, and rose on the third day, and he is Lord and God of all.
There is no unity with people who scream at children over their parents' politics. There is no unity with someone who lies about what Charlie Kirk said in order to excuse his murder. There is no unity with someone who harasses an innocent family the day after the father of that family lost a dear friend. There is no unity with the people who celebrate Charlie Kirk's assassination. And there is no unity with the people who fund these articles, who pay the salaries of these terrorist sympathizers, who argue that Charlie Kirk, a loving husband and father, deserved a shot to the neck because he spoke words with which they disagree. Did you know that the George Soros Open Society Foundation and the Ford Foundation, the groups who funded that disgusting article justifying Charlie's death, do you know they benefit from generous tax treatment? They are literally subsidized by you and me, the American taxpayer. And how do they reward us? By setting fire to the house built by the American family over 250 years. I am desperate for our country to be united in condemnation of the actions and the ideas that killed my friend. I want it so badly that I will tell you a difficult truth. We can only have it with people who acknowledge that political violence is unacceptable, and when we work to dismantle the institutions that promote violence and terrorism in our own country.
Wow, John. I don't think I could have said it any better. I don't think anybody else could have said it any better. I love seeing this fire from the future 48th president of the United States. What are your thoughts, John?
I mean, what an amazing legacy. He left us so many. This is somebody who was extremely prolific, who left so many words on paper, recorded, so many conversations with other Americans. At the end of the day, no matter what, the left has been going crazy trying to assassinate his character. But the bottom line is everything that he said was recorded. There's a record of it. And 99% of the time, he's referring to the Bible and to the teachings of Jesus Christ. And you cannot fault him for that. And, there's just no way that the falsehoods, that there's a justification for the falsehoods that are being told about him right now. No man is perfect. We know that. But at the same time, this is a guy who every time he went in public, right? Imagine if all the things like Martin Luther King, right? All the things that we know about Martin Luther King is that they began saying things that were completely contrary and there was no record of anything that he had ever said. It'd be easy to dismiss him, right? And there's many things. Martin Luther King Jr. was not a perfect man, right? But a lot of the things that he said were left. There were a record of it, and he became a national hero to a lot of Americans. And the same will happen with Charlie Kirk. 99% of the things that he said in this modern age are all over the internet. They are recorded for posterity's sake. And this is someone that I think that Americans will be learning about for many, many generations.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Welcome to another episode of Unsanctioned America. Man, it feels so long since we have been here with you for an Unsanctioned America. There's a lot to talk about. We have a great show for you. It's just a huge thing. We're going to talk, obviously Vance talked about unity and political violence in the aftermath of Charlie Kirk. We're going to talk a little bit about that. The world, not just us, but the world mourns who many were calling a future presidential candidate at the very least. The killer's apprehension leads to as many questions as answers. Leftists and rhinos begin gaslighting. The Charlie Kirk Act is now coming up. This is another bill that was taken down during the Obama administration that may be coming back up again regarding propaganda. Trump posts a remark stripping ABC and NBC of their broadcast licenses. Leftists and abusive parents are raising empty, hateful kids. What a shameful display to see children celebrating the murder of another human. Liberals complain that Republicans are now the cancel culturalists. The National Guard is on its way to Memphis. The Emmys, of course, I don't even know why we're mentioning it, but the Emmys were barely worth mentioning. And Kimmel, finally, give you an update on Jimmy Kimmel. The world got what it wanted, and it could not have come at a better time or any sooner. So all this and more on this episode of Unsanctioned America. We're going to say a quick prayer. Uh-oh.
What happened?
that we did not update
Yeah, yeah,
the
and I
title.
noticed it, but we were way too late to change it. So it is
Okay,
what it
so
is.
we'll have to put the titles in there. We'll have to update them a little bit later, little later, little by little. So anyways, we're gonna do a quick prayer and then we're gonna get right down to the show. Lord, these are challenging times. You know, life is all about the ups and downs. We have the up of the election, and then we have the down of the killing, the murder of Charlie Kirk. And we all know that no matter doesn't matter where we are in life and what is going on, that as long as our faith is placed in you, that we and that your will be done, that we can withstand anything, and that you don't provide us with any challenge that we can't overcome as a country, as a person, as a parent, as an employee, as an employer, as a student, or as anything, as an American. So continue to watch over us, please. Inspire us to do the best that we can. Be with us. Watch over this country as we surrender our lives to you at the end of the day and submit to your will. In your son's name, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. All right, John, let's get into the news. All right, John. So it's like you said, it wasn't just here in the United States, although it was pretty much all over the United States, but it was also in London, England. It was in South Korea. It was in Japan. It was in Australia. The world mourned Charlie Kirk. And here's some images from all over the world. It's amazing, John. Like I had no idea that Charlie's reach got that far, like all over the world, literally.
I mean, I didn't know either. I don't think a lot of people didn't exact impact that this would have across the world to someone. At the end of the day, it reminds you, which we're constantly, as long as we've been doing this show, we're constantly putting on stories where the rest of the world is celebrating the success of the United States. Whenever something positive happens in the US, they're celebrating it, right? When Trump won, they were celebrating that win across the entire globe. It wasn't just in the United States. And why is that? Because we are far more important to the world than we even realized, I think, or that we realize. We are an incredibly inspiring story to the entire world. It's why everyone wants to come here. This country represents far more than just freedom for Americans. It represents the aspirations of all these citizens, not the countries and their corrupt governments and their dictators, but of the citizens around the world. They all aspire to live in a country like this. And so, of course, they're gonna they're gonna mourn Charlie Kirk, and they're gonna protest his brutal murder, and they're going to, mourn with us.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can see the difference, John. You know, when George Floyd was killed, um, riots in the streets. But you see what happened with Charlie Kirk. You don't see riots in the streets. We are not the same, and we're going to detail that throughout this program tonight. Exactly what Vice President Vance was meaning when he said there can't be unity until some of the things that are being said coming from the left end, and they admit that it's wrong. Um, it's just amazing. But going back to the mourning process for people, like I had seen clips of Charlie Kirk debating the students at Cambridge University, and you know, it was just amazing to see. And all those social media clips that he did on TikTok, that he had on X, that he had on Reels, that he had on Instagram, they went viral every time. So it shouldn't be surprising to me that he had that reach across the world, but yeah, he did. Those clips are just
Yeah,
amazing, and you
absolutely.
still see them to this day, and that's gonna keep him immortal because there's tons and tons of these clips, hours and hours of footage that will be circulating in social media and on the internet forever.
The
Forever.
amount of conversions to Christianity that we're seeing live in the world is incredible, right? You see
Yeah.
like all these videos about people going to church and they're gonna go and that they've been watching Charlie Kirk. They didn't know about him, but they know about him now, and they're gonna practice their own faith. I mean, it basically he's living out what his life's goals were, even in death. And I pray for the family. I pray for his kids. It's a terrible thing to. Basically, he's a martyr,
Yeah.
and not only is he a martyr for the church, but he's a martyr for our country. And people talk about Jefferson's quote, about the tree of liberty needing to be watered with the blood of American patriots. And that's exactly what Charlie did for his country. He laid down his life for his country. And it's an incredible display of how much power sacrifice has. That is what our country is built on, right? It's like the American story, whether it's an immigrant story or someone who's been here for 10 generations in the United States, it's all about sacrifice, right? We sacrifice, and then every generation has more to sacrifice for their children, and it's on and on and on and on, and everybody's contributing and building. And that kind of stopped. It seems like it stopped, and we forgot that that's what the American dream was. It wasn't to get rich, it was to contribute and to grow and to live the opportunities that this country has of freedom. Um, and it's just an incredible reminder that what Reagan said about liberty can be lost in one generation. Literally through the last Biden administration and two Obama administrations, I felt like my freedom was dissipating before my eyes. I felt it was evaporating. Certainly during the Biden administration, when they were coming after conservatives and using the government to attack conservatives, you had the FBI harassing people going to school board meetings, Christian moms, Catholic moms going to school board meetings, and Moms for Liberty and organizations like that. You had the FBI that was focused on attacking Americans who for demonstrating their political beliefs. Oh, and then it's just like, wow, we're losing our freedom right before our eyes.
Yeah.
So nobody gets it exactly right. I think that there's a lot of space for grace, and that's what our country needs right now. A little bit of grace. We saw it. Charlie had a lot of grace. He spoke honestly, but he had a lot of grace and love for people that he disagreed with. And I think that that's what we need to focus on right now, is maybe trying to exemplify some of his best characteristics in ourselves, even on the show. And we this show is essentially a show of two guys telling jokes about politics in a non-serious way, right? In a very irreverent way. But at the same time, there's we maybe everybody could add a little bit of grace to what they're doing. And it's a good opportunity for even us, two guys that literally we just tell jokes for an hour or 2 hours while we're telling the news and making fun of people, and we're kind of like roasting the news. Even we can add a little bit of grace to our platform. And at the last show that we had hundreds of people watching live, and it's not the world's greatest audience, world's largest audience. It is the world's greatest audience, but it's not the world's largest audience. and we can do our part to contribute to
Yeah,
making our country better and our world better.
absolutely, John. I don't disagree. I don't disagree. But at the same time, I would say this. We are dealing with some unreasonable people on the far left.
Absolutely.
We are dealing with some truly unreasonable people that can't be reasoned with, and we're going to show some
Practically
examples of
possessed,
that.
practically possessed,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
These are behaviors that are more reminiscent of a possession than they are of civic dialogue, certainly.
absolutely. I mean, what compels these people to do the things they do, John? Besides, maybe possession by a demon. I mean, I know that might sound crazy, but I mean, what else could it be? I mean,
Yeah, you're 100% right.
what else could it be? Well, we're not going to mention this guy's name on this show. I know people probably heard his name already a million times. I'm not going to say his name. John's not going to say his name. But there is some confusing facts about this guy that are out there. You have a lot of people saying this guy is MAGA because his family was MAGA, that he is not a far leftist, that he's one of our own. But his neighbor confirms it all and basically says, no, the truth is this guy was far left. He did have a boyfriend that was in transition. Hear it from him.
With him.
Were they holding hands?
Yeah, they were. So, yeah, they drove off in his car, the Dodge Challenger.
The time you saw them or this week?
It was about the time I saw them. So
How long ago was that?
I would say about 2 weeks ago.
And so they looked like they were a couple?
Yeah. Yeah.
And he was dressed all in black?
Yeah, definitely.
And you thought he was weird?
Yeah, I definitely, yeah.
What was weird about him?
Just the way he walked and just the way I've seen him. I've never seen really anybody dressed all in black with a mask on, and I thought that was just quite weird.
For those who've never seen the roommate, describe that person for us.
He did have freckles on his face. For the haircut, he did have, it was a weird haircut. It was kind of a mushroom shaped one. Yeah, I would say he didn't come out much, but definitely a few other, like just a little bit at a time.
There's some published reports out there that this individual, the roommate, may have been transitioning. Did that correlate with what you saw?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so he was going to have an operation to be to turn into a woman.
Yeah, and I think he's getting ready for that.
Sorry, in what way do you think that?
I remember them talking about a doctor's appointment. It was about 2 weeks ago, I would say.
And they were kissing?
Yeah.
Do you know where did you see them kissing?
Just coming out. I was riding with my bike, so I didn't see the whole thing, but yeah, I saw them.
And when did you hear them talking about a doctor's appointment?
I would say about the same time that they came out. So that one time, yeah.
Where were you standing for that?
I was just riding by here.
Okay.
So.
And you were able to hear snippets of their conversation?
Yeah. Yep.
But you were sure that they were a couple, but you have only seen them together once?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, random guys don't hold hands and definitely don't kiss. So.
There you go. And,
Yeah, the random guys definitely do not kiss. He's right about that.
No, they don't. They don't, John. But I understand why many find it hard to believe that this is the guy. And we've seen this discussion online. We've seen people in the MAGA movement, fellow conservatives, debating whether this is the guy, saying they thought it was a psyop, that it was Israel, that it was all these different things, and find it hard to believe. And I understand it is hard to believe that our Justice Department, it's hard to believe our government, because we've been lied to so many times over the years. But there's a lot of evidence being compiled that this is the guy, without a doubt. There's text messages. Supposedly the boyfriend that was transitioning is cooperating with authorities. He turned over his phone. They have text messages. Supposedly there was a Discord chat that was leaked where this guy was talking about doing this. a number of things. So I understand the thought process. I just hope that too many people don't fall into too many rabbit holes. And we even have very popular influencers with shows, John, talking about that this doesn't add up. This isn't the guy.
I mean, I agree with that sentiment. I think that there's certainly a lot of evidence that this guy did it, right? And it's not that I think that anybody else did it. It's not that I think that Israel did it. It's not that I think, but I'll tell you 100%. I don't care what the FBI says or the Department of Justice. I don't believe them. They still have not prosecuted a pedophile from Epstein Island. They said that there's nothing going on Epstein Island. How am I supposed to believe? We all know that that's false. So if they're continuing that lie, how can I believe them about this? I cannot. I cannot bring myself to believe it. It's too easy that we don't know anything about the guy who shot Trump in the ear. No news has come out about that, right? We know nothing about that guy. We know less about the guy that shot 50 people from a tower in Las Vegas, from a hotel high in the hotel in Las Vegas, than we know about this guy. This guy, all of a sudden, we know everything. We know his sexual habits. We know his boyfriend's haircut. We know everything, his wardrobe. We know what his Discord account. We've even seen leaks between him and his transsexual boyfriend. I mean, so this is what the FBI for the first time ever is actually telling us what's going on. I don't believe the turnaround, and it's so coincidentally it's so close in time to Epstein that until they actually tell us the truth about everything, I won't believe that they're telling the truth about anything. So so I agree. Now, the whole debate about Israel, I think that Israel killed Charlie Kirk? I don't know. I don't know that they did. First of all, I don't necessarily. I don't jump to that conclusion. But the fact that I don't know, and that in my heart I can't say with 100% certainty that Israel is not interfering in our government in the United States, that's a problem, right? Because we've already seen it. There's people that are saying it was Israel that had its hand in the Kennedy assassination and this and whatever. All of that stuff, I have no idea, right? What I do know is that there is a gigantic PAC, right? A political action committee that is spending millions, if not billions of dollars bribing and blackmailing our government officials in Washington, D.C., according to reports, right?
Yeah.
So as long as that's happening, why would they? You're saying that it would be beyond them? We just saw them kill, I mean, if you look at what's going in Gaza, they don't have any qualm about killing a child in Gaza. So why would they have a problem killing an adult here in the United States? They assassinated the leader of Hamas, which I'm in support of, but they assassinated him and one of our allies in Qatar. So it's not like Israel is a zero-sum game player, right?
Yeah.
They are playing to win, and they don't give a damn about the United States except for the cover and protection that they get from the United States. And if they were getting that cover and protection from China, I wonder if they would be more aligned with China than they are with us, because some of their leaders have said it. So I know that that's not about Charlie Kirk, but I'm just saying that it sounds crazy. But the fact is that if there's anything that you remember about what I'm saying right now, remember this. Unless somebody's telling you the truth about everything, don't trust anything. Yeah. That's the bottom line. And we cannot trust our government because our government has been lying for so long. We cannot trust it. It's great. I'm very happy that Trump is president. Trump has been doing a phenomenal job in 99% of things. He messed up big on Epstein Island. He messed up big by not releasing all the documents. He's messing up big, in my opinion, by some of the things that he says, where it makes the dreams, it gives the liberals an opportunity to say, see, we were right. He just said this.
Yeah.
I saw somebody post that here we go again. The Republicans are doing everything they can to snatch defeat out of victory, right? And that's exactly what they're doing. The Republicans love to snatch defeat out of victory. And it's just it's just a damn shame. Now, again, what does this have to do with Charlie Kirk? Charlie Kirk sacrificed his life for this country for us to have these conversations, because right now the American people, such a large percentage of the American people, are so aware of what is going on, and that's what you need to actually have a revolution. That's what you need in order to protect that tree of liberty, is awareness of what is going on. You need people who are educated in what is going on. So, and that's all to him, because how long have we fought hard? You and I, Tom, how many years have we fought hard to get people involved in what's going on? You know,
Too
and
many.
Charlie Kirk,
Too
through
many
his
years.
death, mobilized millions and millions of people.
Yeah, yeah. I would say this. It's not beyond Israel to get involved. I just don't see them being involved in this. And I like, yeah, of course, John, it's hard to believe anything that comes from government, and you should absolutely not trust anybody. You can believe in somebody, you can believe in something. Believing in the government, no, 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 absolutely not. Cash Patel and Dan Bongino are two people that we believed in until this Epstein thing.
Full-heartedly.
Yeah, wholeheartedly until this Epstein thing. But I would lay the blame of the Epstein thing at the feet of Pam Bondi, not President
I
Trump,
agree.
not Cash Patel, not Dan Bongino. She is the one that had the binders, and she's the one that told somebody in a restaurant that James O'Keefe filmed that they had everything. I don't think President Trump knows what they really had or what they didn't. He was under the assumptions of what he's told by these folks. So, as far as the Epstein thing, who knows? Who knows what the truth is there? I don't think we'll ever know what the truth is there, unfortunately. But we do know that things were going down on that island without a doubt.
Yeah.
Whether there's a big black book with a bunch of names in it, who knows?
Here's what I think. Here's what I think happened. Epstein Island pedophiles traded their freedom for support, or for the rollback of their support of the crazy Democrats. That's what I think it was. Because look, right now, Jimmy Kimmel, we're going to talk about Jimmy Kimmel tonight, right? But we saw Stephen Colbert get canceled, right?
Yep.
We see all of a sudden,
we see a lot of things dialing back.
You see Mark Zuckerberg, right, who had given hundreds of millions of dollars, more than Elon gave to Trump, Zuckerberg gave to Democrats to get Democrats elected. So now you're seeing him roll back, have dinner with Trump and whatever. And these are people that they're mercenaries for wealth, right? In the past and centuries ago, you used to have mercenaries for war. Now you have mercenaries for wealth. And that's all they're doing, these guys, for power. And they are selling their souls easily and quickly because they don't give a damn about us. They have an agenda of their own. Bill Gates is a monster in all worlds, right? He's a thief and of business, and he's a Epstein Island frequent flyer.
Yep.
And here he is sitting to the right, sitting next to Trump's, Melania Trump. I'm just, oh gosh, this is also the guy that's trying to vaccinate the world with vaccines that are, now, according to RFK Jr., essentially being exposed for being nothing more than a complex and expensive poison. So, we can't trust. And at the end of the day, that's what we're after, right? Our election, Trump's election, wasn't about Trump. And this is what I keep saying. It wasn't about Trump. It wasn't just about Trump. It's not just that we're loyal to Trump above all things. The point is that Trump ran on protecting us. Remember, he said it himself. His words, they're not after me because of me. They're after me because I'm protecting you, right?
Yeah.
That's what we want. And that's what we want that to continue. And I don't care if the name is Trump or anybody else. I want the people who are fighting for the American people. And the moment that they stop fighting for the American people, or they start breaking their promises to the degree that they're doing the same thing that the Biden administration did, the same thing that Obama's administrations did, then I'm not pushing in that direction either, because what I want is for the American family to have its place at the top of the food chain, and that's who belongs there. The American family, not illegal aliens, not dirty politicians, not government bureaucrats, not technocrats, not unions, the American family. And that's what the fight for me is about. And I believe that that's what the fight that Charlie Kirk had too. At the end of the day, if you were to whittle down everything that Charlie Kirk was saying, it was really about God's family, which is even more important than what I'm saying. And that's what it was. A family in God's light, and that's what we should all be fighting for.
Yeah, absolutely. Couldn't agree more. Well, we had just talked about this. They had said, multiple things about this shooter. Well, here's even more evidence. This is the guy. Here is the Utah governor talking about this guy and things that were inscribed on the bullet casing
that had been engraved on casings found with the rifle. Inscriptions on a fired casing read, "Notices, bulges, capital OWO, what's this, question mark." Inscriptions on the 3 unfired casings read, "Hey fascist, exclamation point, catch, exclamation point." Up arrow symbol, right arrow and symbol, and 3 down arrow symbols. A second unfired casing read, "Oh Bella Chow, Bella Chow, Bella Chow, Chow Chow." And a third unfired casing read, "If you read this, you are gay, LMAO." We are.
There you go, John.
That's very strange for a criminal to do. Don't you think? I mean, imagine if John Arguello decided that he was going to go assassinate somebody, right? Number one, I would find a place where there's not going to be video. I'm going to scope out in advance. I'm going to be perched where there's no video of me, right? I mean, that would be number one. Scout the area first. Then I would not make sure. I would wear gloves. All right. I mean, we see that even O.J. Simpson wore gloves. I mean, the whole idea is to prevent the leaving behind evidence. But this guy did nothing but create evidence, and that is crazy to me. That's a point of contention for me. You're telling me that a 22-year-old kid was so mentally ill. Obviously, he was mentally ill. This guy is mentally ill no matter what. But he's so mentally ill that he's trying to create evidence instead of remove evidence. That doesn't make any sense to me. It just doesn't make any sense. The guy's creating everything that he does creates evidence. He walks up a set of stairs where there's cameras, right? He goes on top of a building where he silhouettes himself as a sniper. These are all things that a sniper would never do. Nobody would ever do. Nobody would ever do it. But all of these shooters today, they are creating evidence instead of trying to hide evidence. He leaves the gun behind in a bush where obviously the cops are going to find it. Then he etches all of the bullets. He only shot once, but he etches a handful of bullets with all these things that incriminate him. Then he sends text to his boyfriend saying, "Hey, I did it. It is me. Yes, blah, 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 blah." I mean, he goes on Discord and says, "Hey, I'm going to go kill this guy." Man, it just doesn't make any sense. I can't force it. And it does not make any sense. I'm not saying that the evidence doesn't speak for itself. Obviously, it does. I'm just saying, is there anybody to whom this makes sense? I mean, it doesn't to me. Who does that? Who actually commits a crime and leaves that much and creates evidence so that they get caught?
Yeah, it is kind of strange, the things that were written on these casings and that was out there. But these are strange people we're talking about, John. These are unhinged individuals, and God only knows what goes on in their minds. I mean,
Well, one thing is clear: no trans person and no one associated with a trans person should be allowed to have a firearm. Period. It's mental illness. And if you are telling mentally ill people that what they are doing is not mental illness, it's right for them to do it, then they are also mentally ill and they should not be allowed firearms.
yeah, I could not agree more with that, John. And I think This is something that needs to be looked at. I've also said that red state governors, and I put out a statement, I think it was 2 days ago, where I said that, red state governors need to step up. Red state governors, red state legislators, you need to step up at this time. We need to look at mandatory death sentences for intentional murders. Um, we need to bring back the electric chair, and we've talked about it multiple times on this show. We need insane asylums, and we need them opened up again in the United States of America. Because, and we're going to detail it. Like I said, we're going to detail it tonight. We have some really crazy folks out there. So, anyway, I want you to be weary, and I hope that you hope for this for people too, John, that they be weary of Republicans, especially Republicans, that are bringing out this both sides argument. And what I mean by that is they are telling people that the reasons why things like this happen are because of both sides. Here's one example, and this is the Utah governor himself.
I'm not saying we have to just sing Kumbaya and hold hands. What I'm saying is we actually should disagree. I think Charlie represented that better than anyone. Charlie said some very inflammatory things, and in some corners of the web, that's all people have heard. But he also said some other things about forgiveness. He said some amazing things about when things get dark, putting down our phones, reading scripture, going to church.
All right, so that's just a light example. He said that Charlie said some horrible things, right? Here's another example. Here's another Republican.
Well, I would say if there's someone preparing to be able to take out an aggressive act against someone or to be able to violate the law, that is the role of law enforcement, to be able to protect Americans. We need to be careful in how we talk about this, whether it is talking about white nationalists and preparing to be able to attack and to be able to carry an attack, or it is somebody like a Timothy McVeigh that hated the government intensely and in my state 30 years ago murdered 168 people in Oklahoma City, or whether it is a leftist group that is interested in actually attacking a pro-life center that we saw several years ago. Or
all right, that example, he says something that happened 30 years ago and talks about white nationalists, where we have never seen something like to this level, like an assassination or the things we've seen from the left over the last 10 years from the white nationalist movement. Not that they are any better than any leftist group. So, but then finally we have Howard Kurtz here on his show on Fox.
There is violent extremism on both sides. It is not proportionate. And in order to have an honest conversation about what led to this moment, that has to focus in part on the left.
I'm glad you mentioned that it's not unique to one side or one party. Charlie Kirk was not a saint. He said 2 years ago, it's worth to have a cost of, unfortunately, some gun deaths every single year so we can have the Second Amendment. But his murder makes us feel like a very dangerous time.
All right. Well, enough of that.
It's always a dangerous time for conservatives because Democrats can't stop shooting us.
That's right.
I mean, this is BS. This is not a two sides issue.
Not.
If Biden had died, right, there would have been people that celebrated Biden's death. But me, who's all the way to the right, would have not been one of them because I'm a normal person, right? We would not have been celebrating his death. If he had been assassinated, we would not have been celebrating his death. And conservatives, by and large, are not celebrating the death of anyone. When Jimmy Carter died, did you see Republicans celebrating his death? No. We celebrate election victories. Democrats burn buildings in election defeats. This is not a two sides of the argument. When George Floyd died, a drug dealer who held a gun to his girlfriend's head was killed. Basically some criminal, some thug off the street, okay, who had value as a human, but certainly was not a pillar of democracy or of justice or civic duty or God's example or anything. It's just a guy. He got killed. They burned down cities. They occupied cities for more than a year. They was causing havoc. They killed Charlie Kirk, and what do you see? That you see vigils, You see prayer. You see basically everything that Charlie was preaching.
Yeah.
But the Democrats just have no control over themselves. They can't stop lying. Their entire this is why they're dying. I mean that figuratively. They're dying off. There's no Democrat Party in 20 years. It has been gone. The new Democrat Party is the Republican Party. And the Democrat Party is just going to evaporate. Why? Because they can't stop lying. Even you get caught. Listen, we've had kids. You and I both had kids. We've had kids. We've been kids. You know when kids lie and they absolutely will not tell the truth. They just won't come back. They won't admit it, no matter how caught they are. That's the Democrats. That's what happens if you allow your kids to cheat, lie, and steal their whole lives, and you never teach them any different. They grow up and they become liars and cheaters who do nothing different. And that's what they're trying to do. And the problem is now they're doing it on the news to over the airways to millions of people, trying to create this false narrative that just doesn't exist. It doesn't hold water anymore. They've been carrying this bucket of water for corruption for so long, and the American people have now seen it. And nobody's falling for it. So this is not a two sides of the same argument. The Democrats have been talking about what a fascist Trump is for how long? The closest the United States has ever been to fascism, okay, has always been under a Democrat president, Woodrow Wilson. Woodrow Wilson was a tremendous racist. It's his Woodrow Wilson's greatest accomplishment is the level of racism that he achieved. That is his greatest achievement. Everything else that he did was terrible for our country. And he was a Democrat, of course. You go to Biden. Don't you remember all the horrible things that Biden said about who was Biden's mentor? A KKK guy. Okay, and all of his policies. How many times did he say, "Oh, well, black kids are as smart as white kids," right? But that wasn't what he said. Black kids are as smart as rich kids, or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, it's bad.
It was
Everything
something
that Biden said.
stupid.
Yeah, Biden's mistakes were Freudian slips. They were not just the musings of some old man.
Because
So
remember, he said these things when he was much younger. It wasn't like
he said these things when he was younger.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
and then you look at his policies. He talked about victimizing. Remember, I mean, all kinds of things. Just obviously, anybody knows. I don't need to litigate what he said. It's all out there. Just like Charlie Kirk, he left a record of who he is.
Yeah.
And in terms of fascism, look how close we became. He was using the government to attack its own citizens. That's the closest we've ever come, right? In World War II, with the internment camps for the Japanese people, where did that come from? Who was the president? Okay, so I mean, just look. The proof is in the pudding. There is history. And I'm not saying about history the type that people write, the Victor writes or whatever, none of that. Go back and look. Who was president? What party? What did they do? Okay, Democrat policies are so close to fascism, and they've been gaslighting the American people by continuing to call Trump a fascist. Now, Trump has said some things recently that really I don't like. I'm not gonna lie, I'm not gonna protect him from that. I don't like some of the things that he said because it goes way out of the lane of what we voted for. We voted very explicitly for certain things. He's to protect the American people. You don't attack the American people. You don't get in our way. You get out, get the United States government out of the way of the American people. That's why we voted for Trump. That's why I voted for Trump. For Trump to get the government off of our backs, to get out of the way of the American family. So if he deviates from that, I'm going to be very upset. And so I don't want him talking like a Democrat. I don't want him acting like a Democrat. I don't want him trying to make friends with Democrats. The Democrats, all the regular Democrats have left the Democrat Party. And the only thing that's left is crazies.
Yep.
So you don't need to make peace there. Until they become normal, you don't need to make peace with the Democrat Party. And they're not ready for normal yet.
No, they're not. They're definitely not, John. And like I said, we're going to be talking a lot about that in the later part of the show. But well, here's one example anyway. But no surprise here that Ilhan Omar would be happy that Charlie Kirk.
What I do know for sure is that Charlie was someone who once said, guns save lives after a school shooting. Charlie was someone who was willing to debate and downplay the death of George Floyd in the hands of Minneapolis police.
I think he called him a scumbag.
Right, have no regard, downplay slavery and what Black people have gone through in this country by saying Juneteenth should never exist. And I think, there are a lot of people who are out there talking about him just wanting to have a civil debate.
Complete rewriting of history.
Yeah, there is nothing
doesn't
more
rewrite
effed
anything.
up,
Debate discusses
than to completely pretend that his words and actions have not been recorded and in existence for the last decade or so.
I don't even know who the brother Humper was speaking to there, but yeah, they're just unbelievable, these people, John. And this is one of them that shouldn't even be an elected official.
She should not be. She should not be in the United States of America, really. They should have sent her back to Somalia long ago. But, I mean, the Republicans love to snatch defeat out of victory, and that's letting her stay in the country is exactly that. I mean, listen, this is an example of why you have to vet better. Becoming a citizen has to be a lot harder than coming here with your brother husband and lying to the United States government. So, she's the worst. I mean, I hope that they're trying in Congress to censure her and to remove her from her committee assignments. For some reason, 4 Republicans voted against it. I don't know if that meant it killed it or what, but certainly she should be removed from her committee assignments. Yeah. It's pretty bad.
She is absolute garbage, that woman. And hopefully we see something happen to her. But anyway, moving on, John, the Smith-Mundt Act is trending on X, and the trend is to rebrand it as the Charlie Kirk Act. Now, if people out there, if you don't know what the Smith-Mundt Act, here is Mike Benz on the Joe Rogan show explaining the Smith-Mundt Act.
Are you familiar with the Smith-Mundt Act?
Is that the 2011, 2012 thing where Obama allowed people to use propaganda against United States citizens?
Yeah, that was what was done then under Obama was the effective repeal of it. It was called the Smith-Mundt Modernization Act. But the modernization got rid of the whole purpose of it, the firewall, because at the time the media and media control was seen as the linchpin crux of winning the Cold War, piping in pro-U.S. Media influence because everything moved after World War II from kinetic warfare and military occupation. We used to militarily occupy the Philippines, for example, after we won the Spanish-American War, but that was banned under international law. Territorial acquisition by military force in 1948. So we had to win elections, and we had to influence the passage of laws in foreign countries by having an apparatus inside those countries that influenced the hearts and minds of people, which influenced who they voted for, which then determined the government. So you had to move towards political vassalage rather than military occupation. And what the Smith-Mundt Act did is, simultaneous with the creation of this in 1948, Congress recognized the Frankensteinian monster they were creating by authorizing a covert, permanent Department of Dirty Tricks, and this is their phrase, not mine, to do this cloak and dagger, to infiltrate and co-opt the universities, the unions, the media, the politicians, the judges, the whole swarm army. What I have been calling for a long time the USA Truman Show, because it's these people in these foreign countries have no idea how many of the things they interact with that are effectively a movie set being constructed by the U.S. State Department and its sister influence orgs. But the point that I'm getting at here is the Smith-Mundt Act in 1948 said, okay, you guys can do this. State Department can do this. CIA can do this. USAID, when it came along 13 years later, could do this. But so there was a guy named Frank Wisner who was known as one of the godfather figures of the CIA. He's known for creating what was called the Wisner's Wurlitzer, which was it's like a church organ, and that he would brag that he could play the international media like a symphony to make any media narrative go viral in any country on earth because of the suite of CIA proprietary media functions and its distribution network, especially when the U.S. had first mover advantage in radio and print. It's basically the U.S. and U.K. were the only games in town, really, in having robust radio, film, TV, and print media. So the Smith-Mundt said, okay, you can do that abroad. You can plant fake news stories in France. You can, have propaganda blare into Africa or Western Europe or Central Asia, but that can't come home. You can't psyop our own people with your propaganda organ abroad, because the whole point of authorizing this is that we get cheaper gas, we get import-export markets, we get a high standard of living, because if a foreign government doesn't want to give up its resources or allow a U.S. military base or allow joint partnerships or exports of goods or U.S. multinational corporations to operate there, then the American people suffer economically. So it was always designed to say, listen, you can do this dirty stuff abroad, but it can't come home. We have and even that protection, which lasted for 70 years, and we only lost it a decade ago. We're up against a much actually deeper, darker problem with this USAID scandal, and as people will see increasingly, the scandals that will break open at the Pentagon and the State Department, which is that we have a Smith-Mundt problem for funding and operations. It's not just propaganda. The Blob, our foreign policy establishment, can fund groups that effectively work with prosecutors domestically, or that work at media, dual use. We give them foreign grants to do media propaganda abroad, but they operate here. Or social media censorship, to coerce foreign countries to pass foreign censorship laws that explicitly and are intended to attack U.S. social media companies and in U.S. peer-to-peer speech. So we need that protection. If we're going to keep this function at all, we need a hard firewall and absolute grotesque penalties for any violation.
All right. So basically, Barack Obama and his administration rebranded this thing as the Modernization Act and killed the protections. And that is why you saw what happened over the last 10 years, where we had, the incredible bias against conservatives and, right-leaning news, things of that nature. And you saw this amplification of this liberal agenda.
I first of all, anything that Obama did, you can almost guarantee that it is terrible. Beginning with this, now the problem is, wow, my goodness.
Bless you.
So, thank you. So, and this was like just one of the things that we didn't hear a lot about during Obama's administration. Now, we all the other countries in the world, they allow propaganda, right? Some of these countries were built on propaganda. The USSR being like the best example. Like everything was state run and state mandated. You could not have a free press. Nobody was saying anything different. When they, like, we have the Associated Press, and they had like the Russian, I think it was called ITARS, I don't remember what it was, but it's state controlled, and they would send out a press release, and it would basically be the word of the government, right? In the United States, we used to laugh at that. And as a journalist, when somebody who went to journalism school, we would laugh. We couldn't even imagine the United States doing that. But we also could never imagine what the news is doing today anyways. We could never imagine them using anonymous sources and all this stuff. There were rules to journalism, like very strict rules. If you did not follow the rules, you would be laughed at as a journalist. Your reputation would be ruined. You would lose your job. The editors would blackball you. It was, and it was basically, you always had to use 3 sources. You had to go look at both sides. You are trained to be a good journalist and to be basically a judge on paper and not insert your own bias. Now you look at our news media, they are propagandists. That's all they are. That conversion happened already. And now it might have been accelerated in this small bill that nobody realized that Obama had pushed, which was this, kind of this retraction of this law, of this act. Now, here's the problem. I don't have a lot of trust. I have so little trust in government right now that them saying that they're going to pass a law that makes it illegal for propaganda, I think that it needs to be written so it's explicitly, number one, the government cannot spend money. The government cannot spread lies. And that if anybody else spread lies to the American people using the channels, using the any kind of media, then they're liable for it. That's all you have to do. All you have to do is make entities liable for what they do, and it will protect the American people. You don't need laws that say people are going to go to jail, people are going to lose their licenses. Just make organizations liable for what they do, and it will resolve almost all of our problems with private entities. Now, the government in and of itself, they need to pass laws to control themselves. They should not be allowed to spend money, but they already have protections against this. And you know what it's called, Tom? Congress.
Yep.
They have the purse strings, but they are allowing spending to be used like this. So, okay, fine. They need to pass a law. I just don't believe that they can pass a law that doesn't have aspects that hurt the American people more than they help the American people at this point. I have very little confidence. These are the same. You have to remember, Trump was elected, but most of these congressmen are the same. And have they changed? I don't have any evidence that they've changed,
No.
They're still worthless and feckless and liars. So I just, it's very hard to see them do anything right.
Yeah. Yeah, especially this Congress.
Oh, absolutely.
Not that it's any better than any other Congress. So, all right, John. So President Trump gets on Truth Social. He says a lot of things on Truth Social, but he got on there and said that the FCC should strip ABC and NBC of their broadcast licenses.
President Trump, who's won a pair of lawsuits against the three broadcast networks, is now escalating his battle against two of them. ABC and NBC fake news, two of the worst and most biased networks in history, give me 97% bad stories. If that's the case, they are simply an arm of the Democrat Party and should, according to many, have their licenses revoked by the FCC. I would be totally in favor of that because they are so biased and untruthful, an actual threat to our democracy.
Yeah. I mean, I don't doubt his words there, but I think that you'd see a lot of chaos if their broadcast licenses were stripped. I don't think that's really what he wants done, but I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised to see the FCC go after them with fines.
I'm not sure that you don't want the president saying this. We get his frustration, right? I'm frustrated at ABC and NBC and all the other channels for lying. That's all they do. They're lying. And they should be fired for sure. There should be consequences. But it's not for the president to say that. It's for the American people to say that so easy. Why not allow the American people, if an American family suffers damages because of a lie by ABC, then that American person should be able to sue ABC. Now, some people are going to say, oh, well, then basically it would kill ABC because everybody would be suing them all the time. Well, the truth is an absolute defense. Okay, so if you tell the truth, you can't be sued. So I think that liability is what needs to happen. And liability basically means accountability in court. Yep. So, to me, as far as I'm concerned, that's.
Let's see it happen. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Let's see it happen. All right. No commercial tonight, John. We're going to go straight to stories from America. All right, John. So, yes, we did allude to the fact that we were going to deal or talk about some of these crazy people that are out there, John. And yes, this first story, um, they are out there, John. They are among us, and they are worse than you ever could imagine. Here is one of those examples.
I have the best news ever.
What? Donald Trump died?
Second best news.
The vice president died?
Okay, third best news.
That Elon Musk died?
Okay, no. Nobody died. My best friend's getting married.
Which one is it?
Taylor Swift! Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce got engaged!
Oh my God, this is so heartbreaking. Basically, this is, I mean, we're watching child abuse, mental abuse, and imagine these sending these children into the world with this amount of hate in their hearts. What's the difference between the average crazy Democrat like this and the people in Gaza that are putting guns in their kids' hands and trying to train them to kill Jews? What's the difference? There's literally no difference, because it's the same intent, which is to brainwash your children to replicate your own craziness. And it's pretty effective. You see these that's the greatest thing that could happen. The greatest thing that could happen is Donald Trump dying. I mean, it's a really terrible, terrible reflection of the Democrat Party. And if someone had ever said to me, "Hey, what's the greatest thing that ever happened?" Right? What's the greatest thing that ever happened? The first thing that I would come to my mind is like, are you becoming a grandparent? Are you having a baby? Those are the greatest things that I could imagine happening to someone. And these people are talking about death, and that's the difference between conservatives and liberals. Conservatives are happy to see and enjoying life, and liberals are happy to see the demise of someone. They're focused on death. We're focused on life. And so there are no two sides, as we began the show. We're in two different worlds. And those two worlds, in my opinion, are just not compatible. It's not about free speech. I don't think that they should lose their free speech. I mean, in this case, that woman, I think she should lose her kids, because there's certainly someone that can raise those children better. But, I mean, this is not about free speech. This is about just humanity. I make jokes, and sometimes my jokes are ugly, right? I make fun of people. Sometimes I say some ugly things about people. I'm not always at my best. But at the same time, never am I hoping and praying for their demise the way that these people are. And I can't imagine, not even my disappointment would I be passing on, like my anger towards liberals would I be passing on to my kids. And yet this woman here is getting her kids excited about Donald Trump dying. It's grotesque. It's really grotesque.
It truly is. It presents the difference between us and them, John, where even the liberals that I despise, I don't want to see them die. I want to see them see things differently. I want them to be able to reason. I want them to be able to just get to a better state of mind where we can agree to disagree. But to wish death and to teach your children to wish death on your political opponents, it's sick, it's evil, it's mentally ill. And that woman has no right to be raising children. I mean, the best thing that could happen to those kids is that they are taken away from that woman. I'm sorry, but I mean, just from that example there, the best thing that could happen for those kids is they get away from that woman.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just a horrible, horrible, horrible thing to see. But that's just an example, one small example, and I'm sure there's a lot more just like them. Take for example.
I mean, we've seen them. We put them on the show every week.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're all over, and a lot of them are in government.
Yes. Yeah. But, this is something that's been made okay by Democrats, by leaders in the Democrat Party. The rhetoric that has come from them time and time again over the last 10 years has led to this environment where people on their side think that this is okay, to think like this, to wish these things upon their political opponents. It's just unbelievable.
Yeah.
And,
Horrendous.
talking about crazy, John, in this Arizona movie theater, a father fought back against a man who got up in the middle of the movie, pulled down his pants, and began peeing on his son.
Thunder breathing. 7-4. God of fire, thunder. Go there, I'm gonna fuck him up. Go over there. I'm gonna fuck him up. Go over there, fam. Watch out, I'm gonna fuck him up. So fast. What's up? You hear my son? What was it? Huh? Fuck out. How come I've never seen the technique until now? Let's go, boy. Damn you! I always knew that stupid geezer like you wanted me! Why else would he only teach you that technique?
And somebody else came to check on the guy who was laying on the ground because the father and I guess his friend beat the guy to a pulp.
I mean, I would have shot him dead. There's nothing else to say. I wouldn't. Certainly, I mean, it's if someone did. I mean, he's lucky he escaped with his life.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people I would have shot him dead. If somebody had attacked my child like that, I would shoot them dead in where they stood.
They said that the child was 6 years old that got peed on, John.
Wow.
Yeah. This is another individual that belongs in the mental asylum. They can't open up the mental asylums fast enough. Including this guy. He did lose his job, but now he's doing a podcast, believe it or not. John, of course, he's doing a podcast. Don Lemon. And here he is. And he says that people on the right are being irrational about the shooting of Charlie Kirk.
So there is, this is sort of two different universes, two different worlds that we live in here in America. And I'm generalizing because there are some folks, I'm in every bunch. There's some who are black folks who are like, yeah, I loved him or whatever. Okay, fine. But those are few and far between. Let's just be honest. And so for the most part, people don't understand, like, what is this, all of this flags and half staff for, when most people had no idea who Charlie Kirk was, by the way. You know that, right? I meet a lot of people out there and you see my lives. They're like, I didn't really know him. I just heard about him when this happened, because it was mostly for like younger people who are really politically activated, like college people who are, just wanted to, college people like to fight on campus. And when I went to school at LSU, we had something very similar, and it was called Free Speech Alley. I think Free Speech Alley is still there, where you could go to Free Speech Alley and you could say whatever you want. The thing is that you could then, and you would not get suspended or expelled or, disciplined for saying some shit. People just said whatever it is that they wanted at Free Speech Alley. Much of it was offensive, but I kind of liked Free Speech Alley. But that's not the America that we're living in right now. We live in an America of cancel culture, and it is the cancel culture on the right now that is leading.
Now he's admitting it, at least.
And the hypocrisy, I've been writing something about this. The hypocrisy on the right about free speech is, it's off the charts. Because think about it. If you actually believed in what Charlie Kirk said he believed in, didn't quite practice all the time, is free speech, then why are you out to cancel people who are using their First Amendment right of free speech to tell you how they feel about Charlie Kirk by using his own words.
This guy is out of his mind, John, and it's no wonder that he's not on TV anymore.
I think he is out of his mind. He's the hypocrite, right?
Yeah.
He's right. He's one of the people that invented cancel culture. He wanted you to be canceled. He would chase you down, the things that he said. And now the shoe is on the other foot. Now, I agree with him in the sense that I'm not for the cancel culture. The difference is between what the Republicans are doing or what conservatives are doing and what the Democrats did is that Democrats were forcing you to get fired if you did not agree with them. Right?
Yeah.
Now what conservatives are doing they're just exposing you for the things that you're saying. Right? Which is they're related. They're closely related. Like it was more like when comedians were saying stuff and then they would go back 10 years and look what the joke a comedian said and they would cancel them. Right? Okay, that's kind of the same thing, except that the Democrats aren't saying these things 10 years ago. They're saying it right now. And all we're doing is resharing what they're saying. That's all we're doing. Now, companies have to deal with the fact now, and there's a big difference between me saying, you know what, I don't give a damn what some guy says. I'll never call him a girl. I'll never call him she if it's a man. And then I'm gonna get canceled for that. That's my belief, not his belief. Now, this guy, somebody else is celebrating the death of someone. That's a little bit different. I don't think that they should be canceled. And if they lose their jobs, I mean, we all know that companies work like this.
Yeah.
The companies only care about making money. They don't care about your political beliefs unless the company is like has some kind of ESG leadership from BlackRock or something like that. So if that's the case, well, okay, then they have a vested interest. But most companies, they just want to make money, and they want to be saved from the drama. And maybe they'll learn that lesson with this because I mean, they just don't want people. If you're going to bring drama to the workplace, don't bring it here. And this is the way it was in the past. If you did something super embarrassing to a company before, you got arrested, you'd get fired for it, right? Because the company didn't want you associated. So, I mean, there's a big difference. There's not a big difference between the cancel culture now with conservatives and cancel culture back then with Democrats, except for one of them proves that people are normal. The Democrats were canceling you because you were normal, and now conservatives are getting you canceled because you're sick. I think that that's the biggest difference. And that truth kind of protects the conservatives, although it is somewhat hypocritical to be complaining. And I'm not complaining about people saying it. I'm just saying this is the difference, right? You attacked me because I said boys are boys and girls are girls. Okay. I'm attacking you because you're literally celebrating and promoting the celebration of death to your kids. There's a big difference, and there's a huge divide between those two things.
All right, so we have an MSNBC host complaining about people being fired for celebrating the death of Charlie Kirk.
I think that this push for mass firings could become quite significant, and it already is. I mean, compared to the aftermath of January 6th, this does seem to be turning into a very aggressive attempt to purge not just, government officials or in the Hegseth example in the Defense Department, but also specifically people who work in education, who work in healthcare, who work in government. Those are the fields that a lot of these right-wing figures have been mentioning over and over again when talking about how just random internet users have responded.
All right, enough of him. We're talking about two completely different things, apples and oranges. These are people celebrating the assassination of a guy that was out there people calmly and rationally debating people, and they're celebrating his death compared to people that went to protest at the Capitol on January 6th, which, obviously some of the media still think is the worst possible thing in the world. that you go and protest the government. They turn this into something it absolutely wasn't. But yeah, that is much worse than celebrating the assassination of a guy. And you have to say a guy, a figure on the
Yeah.
political
By the
spectrum.
way, that's another thing that the FBI and the government hasn't come clean on. February 6th, January 6th. So they might want to take care of that, right? If they want to have some credibility.
Well,
But
I think that enough evidence is out there now, John, that we know that it was a setup, that there was
nobody has been held accountable. You know, I mean, so who cares if they
that's
tell us?
true unless it's something we don't know, because we know Cash Patel went in there and started to clean house. Dan Bongino came in, they cleaned house as far as we know. But we don't know who did what or if anybody was truly held accountable. You would think that would make news, but who knows?
If I had to guess what happened at the FBI and the reason that Cash Patel and Dan Bongino aren't doing anything is because they basically got put, listen, we have to make this deal. We're going to let these pedophiles from Epstein Island go. We're going to let these corrupt people go. And we're going to let them go because we need to get the country on the path. But here's what I will give you in trade. We're going to let you go and get every criminal off the street in the United States. And that's what they're doing, right? So they're fighting crime on the streets the way that they should have been a long time ago. But that's also what the local police should be doing, right? So again, I'm all about a smaller government. Do you need the FBI because of the stuff that the local police should be doing? Are they doing it? It could be argued that it's not happening in an effective way and whatever, that they're overstressed and overworked and they can't do it. But at the end of the day, if it's about truth and justice, then it needs all needs to happen regardless of the deals being made. So, I mean, I don't know. I think that there's a lot to be said. Now, back to the story though about this guy. So, I mean, I said enough. This is two different worlds. You're complaining about things that are somebody being murdered, right? And people saying something that you don't like. And those are two different universes.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely, John. Absolutely. All right. So the National Guard, John, is headed to Memphis now. They've done the job in DC. I guess some remnants of the Guard are going to stay there to help support the DC police, the Metropolitan Police. But we are seeing the problem in Memphis. Memphis is asking for the help, and they're on their way there.
Well, the president will be working with the local mayor and the governor in Tennessee to make sure that operations are streamlined and that we're effective and that we're going after the worst of the worst, those criminals that are there, getting them off the streets and making it safer. So it's good to have local leaders that understand the importance of the work that this president is doing, and that you can't have a successful society unless they can be free, unless they can go out and pursue their dreams and build businesses and live in their homes and send their kids to school and not have to worry about them at night. So the president is very engaged on this issue. He's grateful for the partnership of those local leaders, and we're looking forward to making a big difference there for the people that are in Tennessee.
Yep. And and the residents of Memphis don't seem to have a problem with this, John.
And it's just so dangerous that you can't get out of your car, you can't go to the grocery store, you can't go to the market or the service station. So yeah, I want to see the crime stop. And if the National Guard is going to stop the crime, bring them out.
There you go. And yes, Brian, you are correct. Rhinos and one from Florida dropped the ball on Ilhan Omar. Representatives Mike Flood of Nebraska, Jeff Hurd of Colorado, Tom McClintock of California, and Corey Mills of Florida supported the motion to kill Mace's measure.
Yeah, a lot of things are being said about that. Some people have said that Corey Mills did it so that they would take away their censure of Corey Mills. They would drop theirs. So we'll see if that happens or not. I don't know if that's true. Obviously, I haven't spoken to him. I don't know what the reasoning is for that. Listen, at the end of the day, you can always make the argument, and this is why you have to be very careful when you get into these moments where you get swept up with emotion and you want to push for things like a law to prevent propaganda, and then they ended up turning around like well, there was one politician that likened this to Patriot Act 2.0. Now we all know that the Patriot Act is being used to surveil Americans more than anything else. And that was a big mistake. Allowing the Patriot Act to pass was a huge mistake for our country. We don't want any more mistakes like that to pass. When the politicians are all about it, there's something behind it that's not good for the American people, is my experience. So in this situation, they want to censure her. I would love for her to be censured. I would love for her to be thrown out of Congress. Okay? She should be prosecuted for all the things that she's done, but she should not be prosecuted for exercising her freedom of speech. That is the responsibility of the citizens in her district to not vote for her. And we can't conflate those two things. Now, if it had voted, I'm surprised that anybody voted against this. They should have kicked her out, right? They should have censured her and kicked her out of her committees. That has a big effect because it basically prevents her from being able to raise a lot of money, because if they're not on a committee, then they have no bargaining position except for what the party tells you. So that would have been a great ability for the Democrat Party to rein her in from being crazy. Unfortunately, it didn't go down, but the argument could be made. You got to protect free speech at all costs. I don't want anybody else. Now, listen, in the next election, imagine that a crazy Democrat wins. Imagine that Nikki Fried were to become president of the United States. She's as crazy as they come. Okay. And she would be very happy to kick Unsanctioned off off of X. I mean, we were shadow banned, right? I mean, Tom, we spent the majority of the life of this show has been in shadow ban. We still don't have full access to our audiences on Facebook. So we know what that's like. I don't wish that even on the people as vile as this sister wife, with her brother husband. Even they should have the freedom of speech to promote their beliefs in marrying your sibling. I don't agree, but at the same time, I know what it's like to have your First Amendment rights taken away, and I can't say that I would support that for anybody, no matter how vile and ugly they are. So we have to protect our First Amendment right. But I mean, I'm not going to cry if it happens to her. I'm just not going to be the one that fights to take somebody else's rights away, because that's not a defense. That's not something that I want to defend for myself.
I would just say that I find her completely illegitimate, her election illegitimate.
I do too.
The entire district was flooded during Obama and Biden with Somalian refugees. So the entire area that elected her, most of the people in that area are Somalian immigrants. I agree with you, Brian. She has no place in any form of American government. You were exactly right.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
No place.
But she should not have been in this country to begin with.
No.
She's not been granted American citizenship. She should be. The difference between her and a regular citizen is that she's a government official, right? And so action has to be taken, and this would have been appropriate, which is why I'm saying that I would have supported it. If she were just a sister wife on the street, I would have, I would not have been arguing for it. I'm just saying that the government failed. That's why she is where she is. Those are the problems that we have to resolve. We have to resolve the problems that our government has created. We can't resolve them by dealing with, the government should not be dealing with an American family. It should be dealing with itself. And if it had done the right thing, we wouldn't have an Omar today.
That's true. That's true. All right, John. So the Emmys was Sunday night. Nobody watched, as usual. Nobody watches these shows. I don't even know why they put them on TV anymore. They should just put it on YouTube and let whoever wants to watch it instead of preempting programs.
The only way that I would have watched it is if they had been hosted by like a six-pack of Kill Tony comedians who just roasted the celebrities all day. Otherwise, who's going to watch that dumb stuff?
Yeah, I mean, it's just a complete dumpster fire. But Here's one reason why nobody watches the Emmys.
Finally, I'll pay the difference. Sorry. Finally, I just want to say, finally, go Birds, and free Palestine. Thank you.
What she said, John, they bleeped it out, was F ICE and free Palestine. So
yeah,
I don't even know who that is. I have no idea who that is.
What's the guy's name from comedian?
Oh, Ricky Gervais or
yes.
yeah.
Where's Ricky Gervais when you need him, man? To remind these people of how dumb they are and how little we care about their opinions. You're an actress, for God's sakes. You didn't write a speech. You don't know what you're going to say when you get up there. You've been practicing this moment in the mirror your whole life, and now up there, F ICE. That's it. I mean, give me a break.
You know, she's acting surprised, John. She's acting surprised and excited.
I can't get her eye roll that big.
I'll have to figure out who that person is, but not that I care enough. I say that now, but later on, I could care less, and I'll never look to find out who that is. But anyway,
exactly.
Yeah. So, yes, John, this happened today. Kimmel gets canceled, or at least he's gotten canceled on the majority of the areas that he has broadcast. So we'll get into that at the end. But we're gonna play the reason why he got canceled.
We hit some new lows over the weekend with the MAGA gang desperately trying to characterize this kid who murdered Charlie Kirk as anything other than one of them, and doing everything they can to score.
So he lies right there.
In between the finger pointing, there was grieving.
Hold on a minute.
Friday,
hold on.
The White House flew the flags.
Oh, I was on the wrong one. Okay, there we go.
That's why he should have gotten fired for saying that right there. Yeah. That is the exact thing that he said that should have got him fired. What he says after this makes him a real ass, but it's not fireable in my opinion. It's a joke. Comedians, you can't be firing comedians for jokes. But what he said right there was a lie to the American people. He was acting as a news agent, not as a comedian at that time. He was telling you false lies. He was giving you a false information that was a lie. They talk about Democrats love to talk about disinformation. They are the chief architect of false information and disinformation. That is a lie. 110%. We know that is not true. The guy was a liberal. The guy hated fascists. The guy was dating a gay guy, some transgender. He was gay. And that is exactly out of the 9 mass killings that we saw, mass shootings in recent time, we saw that the vast majority, they had some kind of sexuality issue where obviously it played a part.
Yeah.
So he was a straight lie. That's why he should be fired. He just lied to America. And I think that Eric,
and he knows he's lying. He knows he's
lying.
Yeah,
he knows. It's not a question whether he's lying. They know he knows he's lying, and that's what made him pay the price. I hope, and I hope when they explain it that they tell America that he lied about that.
Points from it. In between the finger pointing, there was grieving. On Friday, the White House flew the flags at half staff, which got some criticism. But on a human level, you can see how hard the president is taking this.
My condolences on the loss of your friend Charlie Kirk. May I ask, sir, personally, how are you holding up over the last day and a half, sir?
I think very good. And by the way, right there, you see all the trucks? They've just started construction of the new ballroom for the White House, which is something they've been trying to get, as you know, for about 150 years. And it's going to be a beauty.
Yes. He's at the 4th stage of grief, construction. Demolition, construction. This is not how an adult grieves the murder of someone he called a friend. This is how a 4-year-old mourns a goldfish, okay?
This is a joke, bad taste, okay? But it's a joke. He's making a joke, and that's his job. Yeah. Horrendous taste. It makes him a terrible person, but certainly not something that you would be canceled for, in my opinion. But lying to the American people goes way beyond telling a joke, and he should absolutely have been fired. Not suspended. He should have been fired, humiliated, escorted out by cops. for lying to the American people and trying to compel us to believe what he knew and what the world knows is false.
Yeah. This is the statement released by Nexstar, an ABC affiliate, one of the larger ABC affiliates. They said Nexstar Media Group today announced that the company's owned and partner television stations affiliated with the ABC television network would preempt Jimmy Kimmel Live for the foreseeable future, beginning with tonight's show. Nexstar strongly objects to the recent comments made by Mr. Kimmel concerning the killing of Charlie Kirk and will replace the show with other programming in ABC affiliated markets. Mr. Kimmel's comments about the death of Mr. Kirk are offensive and insensitive at a critical time in our national political discourse, and we do not believe they reflect the spectrum of opinions, views, or values of the local communities in which we are located. This was Andrew Alford, president of Nexstar's broadcasting division.
Good.
Continuing to give Mr. Kimmel a broadcast platform in the communities we serve is simply not in the public interest at the current time, and we have made the difficult decision to preempt his show in an effort to let cooler heads prevail as we move forward toward the resumption of respectful, constructive dialogue. Good for them. I hope that these late night shows, John, they cost these networks millions and millions of dollars, and they lose millions and millions of dollars because people have stopped watching these shows. People haven't watched these shows in a very, very, very long time. I mean, back in the 80s, the late 80s, the early 90s, yes, people watched these shows. But as time has gone
you
on,
didn't have a phone. You didn't have an iPhone back then, right?
No,
So
no.
you're late evening. After the news, you used to watch the show for entertainment. So they don't have the same pull. And also, the comedians back then, they weren't offensive. They were edgy, but they weren't like trying to. They weren't dark. I'll say that they were bright. They weren't dark. Johnny
They were
Carson
actually
was
funny.
Jay Leno was funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, these guys used to be funny, and then even David Letterman was goofy and funny, and then they became political, and all of a sudden it just became dark, and they wanted you to have a dark idea and to feel dark, and it was if you could be possessed via television airwaves, that's it seemed like that was their mission.
But we found out that U.S. Aid was propping up at least Stephen Colbert. We know that for a fact.
Yeah,
They were
yeah,
propping
yeah.
up that show.
So many things. So many
And,
things.
Hopefully this preemption of Kimmel in a majority of the markets where the show is distributed, this will lead to a permanent cancellation of this show by ABC. I don't know if they have the actual balls to do it, but we'll see, John. So that's Colbert's gone, Kimmel is reduced and diminished, and Fallon is the last man standing. We'll have to see how long it
And
is before he goes away.
he had Tucker Carlson on, right? So it would have been, so he's changing, and he's the least worst.
He didn't
of the
do
bunch,
that
but-
for ratings or anything, John. You know what I mean?
Yeah, right. Exactly. Exactly. He didn't do it, sir. He did it basically to save himself from the new world order that is the conservatism and the Trump administration, not not because he's a fair and good guy.
No, not at all. Not at all. He's just as bad as the rest. And, maybe that Tucker Carlson segment would have saved him for now and maybe boost his ratings, but he has to go back to the same old
We'll
Hollywood
see.
drivel eventually. And no one cares.
Yep.
All right, John, that's all we got for tonight.
Wow. Well, thank you for joining us on another episode of Unsanctioned America. I had some technical difficulties. Those were my fault, actually, on this show. I didn't update everything. So that's going to mess up some stuff for some people, but you can go back and you can watch. We'll try to fix it after the fact. So at least you know which show you're watching and so on. But listen, we love you. We appreciate you. Continue doing what you're doing, America. You're waking up, and that's such an important thing for our country and for our future. And it really, everything good depends on you. And we need for you to be the citizen that God calls you to be. And I know that if we do that, then at the end of the day, as I've said many times this show, at the end of the day, we will be ahead of the game. We will win this. We will win. The right thing will happen. God's will come to play, and that's what we need. So thank you for watching. Again, we'll see you next week. We have a great Unsanctioned Florida show coming up. So much state stuff going on. And we're going to present that. Sorry, we took this kind of like hiatus, and we had the special to do for the FRA elections. That's not sorted out yet, right, Tom?
Yep, no, not yet. And we're hoping to get Lou Marin on the air to answer to some of the things that were
and
said.
John Ward and everybody else who's running in that election. We want to give them a chance to talk themselves and say what's going on. So absolutely, and in fairness, unlike the Democrat Party. So as I said, we love you. Thank you. Join us next week or on the next episode. Make sure you hit the like, the share button, the follow button, so that you get notified when we come on because of our erratic schedule. So we'll see you soon. Thank you. God bless.
Well, I mean, I was entertained, to be honest.
I think it is rich beyond measure. The fact that a school board member that has tens of millions of dollars of conflict of interest before this board has the courage to come up here and talk about anyone's behavior. If anyone should be ashamed of themselves, sir, it should be you.
And I'm in favor of you being able to speak your mind, no matter what. That's how we get. Remember when we were kids, right? And you had a problem with somebody, and then your dad would kick you out to go fight with that kid, and then you shake hands, and then you go home, and then you become friends.
Disgust when they're trying to, take this word and give it meaning that it doesn't have.
Like our entire country needs to go through a fasting. You see all of these new age hippies, right? They're constantly fasting. They're doing starvation diets, or they won't eat for this, or what is it called? Like some kind of
intermittent fasting. It's not just us, and not just fans of President Trump, MAGA Republicans. We're not the only ones that see it.